with representatives from national government agencies, critical infrastructure, business sectors, and the academia present. With meager resources and only a handful of staff, we have come this far. Let me take this opportunity to thank each and everyone who has taken part in this journey. Secretary Sana Lima, who has been on top of everything and whose wisdom has steered us to focus only on important things. Undersecretary Rio, who has been very supportive in the accomplishment of this plan. Assistant Secretary Carlos Caliwara, who has been always there for legal advice. Thank you, sirs. We just made history. To our partners in keeping the country safe, the National Security Council, the Department of National Defense, Philippine National Police, particularly the PNP Anti-Cybercrime Group, Department of Justice, particularly the Office of Cybercrime, National Bureau of Investigation. Your inputs have been vital in crafting this national strategy. Our private sector partners, our partnership has gone beyond businesses, and we are grateful for that. To our partners in the academia, from the four corners of the classroom, you have extended your expertise to us to contribute to this roadmap. Allow me to introduce to you the unsung heroes behind the success of the National Cybersecurity Plan. Engineer Telma Villamorel, Miss General Magalino, can you come to the stage? Miss Fleur Nadwa, Miss Apple Pre, or host, Miss Jennifer Carlas, Mr. Alvin Bursi, Miss Shanita Evans, Engineer Carlos Reyes, thank you, sir. And to our two young, motivated artists, Miss Clea Reyes and Engineer Joanna Delamen. They are the handful of staff that created or crafted or helped me craft the national cybersecurity strategy of the Philippines. They are also the ones who help us in conducting caravans all over the world. Thank you is indeed an understatement. But let me emphasize that this is the only beginning of a bigger, more crucial journey of keeping our cyberspace, our government, our critical infrastructure, our businesses, and our people secure. And this great endeavor of protecting our country is not only a task specific to us at the DICT. Always remember that cybersecurity is a whole of nation, whole of society approach. Cybersecurity is everyone's business. It's us, each and every one of us, that will make the implementation of this plan a resounding success. Again, from the department that never sleeps, the DICT for the people and of the people, thank you and mabuhay.
And before we unveil the National Cybersecurity Plan, let us watch first the videos on cyber threats, also the presentation of our roundtable discussion, all the preparation for this National Cybersecurity Plan. Okay, thank you. Alright, can we give another round of applause to everyone who participated and for everyone who joined from the summit, from the launch to the roundtable discussion, and up to this day, and to officially unveil the National Cybersecurity Plan 2022, let me call on DICT Secretary Rodolfo Salalima to be assisted with DICT Undersecretary for Special Concerns, LSC Rio Jr., and DICT Assistant Secretary Alan Escobanlo. And also, DICT Assistant Secretary Carlos Caliwara. And also let us welcome Commissioner Libor. Another round of applause, please. Alright, so thank you everyone. And to formally introduce our DICT Secretary, let us all welcome again DICT Assistant Secretary Carlos Caliwara.
Thank you again, Apple, and good morning to everyone once more. The presentation has not yet been rated, whether it's PG, restricted. So by virtue of the authority vested in me, it's for family viewing. Okay. Okay, good morning again to our Day Secretary na siyang aking introduce today, and to our Undersecretary Rio, Chairman Liboro, and Asset Alan, to all the guests, stakeholders, and fellow workers in government. This is my favorite part in any program, introducing the keynote speaker. It would be a mistake for me to deliver the keynote speech when you are tasked to introduce the keynote speaker. So therefore, I will be a good soldier this time. If a person is tasked to introduce the guest speaker, as a rule, he must be qualified to do so. And this means he should be credible enough to be believed at. And as a result, I can't lie, because if I do, I will be in trouble. Well, it's not also the other way around, that if I tell the truth, then I'm finished. Both the introducer and the speaker must have something in common. According to the next speaker, his only qualification is that he is the schoolmate of the president. And I must say, my only qualification is I'm the schoolmate of the secretary. The introducer must have a good grasp of who the speaker really is. Not so much on the accomplishments or education that is given. You browse and search the internet, and you'll have thousands and thousands of results about the speaker. not so much on his likes or dislikes, but more on where he is leading us to. And at the rate I'm introducing the speaker, at least you should know by now where I'm leading you up to. Finally, the introducer must give justice to the speaker. This is done like sort of mind conditioning, that I should make sure that you, the audience, must listen to the speaker in the same way that you are listening to me now, not talking to each other, and not texting anyone or playing games. Of course, the speaker, in turn, must ensure that whatever I may have said about him is true and that I am not lying. So now for the introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, never in the history of the Philippine ICT that our country has caught the attention of the international ICT community until our speaker has been appointed the ICT Secretary and started to bring the Philippines to the center of ICT development. Through all these months, and I actually met him only sometime the second week of July, or at least he met me, or I have came to know of the Secretary and Vice Versa only last July of last year. I can attest that he is sincere and dedicated in his work, and very candid. He virtually has a photographic memory, and with hundreds and hundreds of documents coming in every day to his office, one could not imagine how he actually manages to remember what were in those pages. He knows what to do, what to act on, when and who to trust. That is competence. He has the passion for his work, and he knows what this country needs. He is compassionate and understanding, but he has always been tough, firm, and principled. He thinks ahead of anyone else. That is prudence. He abhors and condemns corruption, but he gives recognition to the honest and hardworking. He provides you an opportunity to make a difference. That is stewardship. He will say to you once, if you miss it, just say so. He will repeat it to you. He is a mentor. He will call your attention if necessary and take note with the corresponding voice pitch. It could be baritone or tenor, but I assure you never soprano, depending on the need for you to be reminded of your duty. Through it all, you will appreciate the learning experience you have with him, patience and forgiving. His personal qualities makes us inspired. His qualifications and accomplishments make us work harder. His smile, sense of humor, and kind words for what you do make us happy. His ability to make us see the light at the end of the tunnel give us a true sense of confidence. That is leadership. Mr. Secretary, you don't need to prove anything what I have just said. As we say so in the legal profession, res ipsa loquitur. The thing speaks for itself. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all rise and give honor and respect to the father of Philippine ICT and the secretary of the ICT man himself, Rodolfo A. Salarino.
private sector and from the government, from here and abroad. The members of the DICT faculty, we have here Undersecretary General Rayo. Then we have Asek Kamandong, who until last week was present as an ambassador because he was tasked to meet the Prime Minister of Singapore, and we have to wake up at an early hour, and I was supposed to escort him at 9:30 in the evening, only to be waking up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon because I have never been sleeping since a year ago and was told that the ambassador was to leave at 6:30 in the evening. And Alan was always with me. Commissioner Liboro and Asik Kaliwara. I am here to deliver a closing remark. With the speech of Asik Kaliwara, I think he had done everything for you to understand what my department is. In any event, by way of a prefatory, I have a scripted speech prepared and handed to me only this morning because last week I was in the Visayas, then I had to rush back home to escort the Minister of Singapore. But by way of prefatory, let me just say that most of you perhaps are moviegoers. And as moviegoers, you have seen the movie The Patriot. And of course, you are familiar with that Australian actor by the name of Mel Gibson. Recall that in that movie, The Patriot, there was one scene where Mel Gibson was shouting to high heavens and he said, "I want peace, I want family, I want hope, but these are nothing without freedom." Indeed, man without freedom is nothing. Because if you read the magnum opus, the major work of Jean-Paul Sartre, in his Being and Nothingness, he said, man without freedom is nothing, but with freedom he is able to achieve his essence, his being. Because man is born as a complete tabula rasa, a piece of paper, clean, blank, unwritten, and yet, as man exercises his freedom for as long as he lives, then man starts to build his essence. And so he says, the completeness, the finality, the definition, the essence of man is in the exercise of his freedom. So talk of nothing, talk of being. Man is nothing without freedom. He is something with freedom, because in freedom he is able to find his self, his essence. We are here to unveil the so-called Cybersecurity Plan of 2022, and I must thank that Undersecretary Rayo for the works and Asik Kabanlong. And when we talked of cybersecurity, we are talking here about the underlying philosophy behind cybersecurity. And so we are reminded of freedom, because cybersecurity is there to safeguard and promote the twin freedoms of man. One is the right to privacy, and the other is the freedom of expression. And the incidence of the right to privacy and the freedom of expression. Remember that the right to privacy is the right to live and to be left alone, uninterfered with by the public or anybody except on matters of public concern. Remember the case of Olmsted, the case of Katz, the case of Riley. In the case of Olmsted, an American was indicted for a crime he has committed, not because there was a witness who saw him commit crime. But his house was wiretapped, and his criminal conversation was used as evidence against him. Convicted in the lower courts, he went to the U.S. Supreme Court, and his lawyer invoked the doctrine against unreasonable search and seizure. But the Supreme Court said, no, you cannot invoke that, because that doctrine applies only to tangible physical evidence. It does not involve voice communications, and therefore the client here is convicted. There was a dissent, and that dissent came from Brandeis, and said, no, that man has that right to privacy, and therefore his own conversation at home, no matter how criminal, cannot be used against him. But the court said, no, he was convicted. In Katz, an American Negro talked in a public phone and placed certain criminal bets or gambling. His phone, a public phone, was wiretapped. He was convicted by the lower courts. He went to the Supreme Court. This time around, the U.S. Supreme Court made a turnaround, and he said he has that right to privacy, and decreeing for the first time the so-called doctrine of reasonable expectation of privacy. The U.S. Supreme Court reversed the Olmsted decision of 40 years and said this man should be set free because when he used the public phone, even if it was public, he has that reasonable expectation that his criminal conversation is private, and therefore that wiretap evidence cannot be used against him. And in the latter case of Riley Ramales, an American was stopped because of the red light. The policeman looked over the car. They saw inside the car various assortment of firearms. The policeman confiscated the firearm, and on top of confiscating the firearm, they also confiscated the cell phone of the person. In that cell phone were criminal conversations. The man was convicted because of the criminal conversations in the cell phone, and he was convicted of crimes apart from the bearing of firearms. Convicted in the lower court, went to the Supreme Court of the U.S. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said, no, the contents of the cell phone cannot be used to personally prosecute this man. Again, the U.S. Supreme Court invoked the doctrine of reasonable expectation of privacy. But more than that, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court said, the contents of one cell phone contains the personal niceties of every man. Whatever is contained in there cannot be used against the other person unless there are reasons, there are court orders for the search of the cell phone. That is the right to privacy. And remember that about 5 years ago, the European Union courts have declared a reiteration of the so-called right to be forgotten. In the case, a Spanish lawyer like me, during his younger days, was suffering from poverty. His properties were auctioned when he was yet a struggling lawyer. And that auction of his property was carried in the newspapers of Spain. Google picked up that news, posted it in Google. The Spanish lawyer went to the European court and said, I want that posting on the Google deleted because my right to privacy is involved in by that posting. My social standing is undermined. The European Union said, yes, that posting must be deleted from Google. And by said to delete merely means to delete the connection to that Google posting because the man is entitled to privacy. In the same way, in New York, 3 Germans were convicted criminally. They were put in prison. They suffered the consequence of that penalty. And released from prison, they went to the court of New York and said, we want any news about our being convicted in a record about criminal conviction be deleted because that is our right to privacy, invoking in effect the right to be forgotten in Europe. The US court said no, because we have the right, so-called freedom of expression, which is the right to know and also the right to inform. There seems therefore to be a clash between the right to be forgotten as an incident of privacy and freedom of expression, of which the right to know is an elemental part. And so, even as we view these two freedoms, we say then, is there in fact a clash between these two freedoms? And under these two freedoms, what is the role of security, and for that matter, in this era where crimes are being committed via the internet or via the cyber, what then is the role of cybersecurity? Is there in fact a conflict between privacy and freedom of expression? My observation are these. Freedom of expression exercised to its fullest may at times invade the right to privacy. In the same way, the right to privacy exercised and in fact abused may also stifle freedom of expression. But there is a correlation between the two. Because where the right to privacy is respected, particularly on the matter of our communications, be it personal, be it business, be it government, where communications is protected in the name of privacy, then communication comes full flowering because people tend to write, people tend to communicate when they are sure that they are cyber secure. It comes timely that Republic Act 10844 created my department, which is the Department of Information and Communications Technology. And part of our obligation number 2, was all about consumer protection. And in consumer protection, the law was looking at internet, they were looking at cyber crimes in cybersecurity, and the law says the consumers of telecommunications services must be protected by us in the ICT, consistent with the right of the consumers to privacy, consistent with the right to the cybersecurity. And why cybersecurity? Because of the proliferations of cybercrime. Note that cybersecurity are cyber or internet processes and systems meant to prevent or otherwise mitigate cybercrimes. Cybersecurity is otherwise defined as the totality of any organization or the totality of any country's programs, policies, legislations including processes, systems, facilities, and network meant to address or at least mitigate cybercrimes, meant to protect the people, meant to protect business, meant to protect government, and at the same time meant to protect our own infrastructure and the data in the information that flows in those infrastructure. What are these cybercrimes? What are the cyber attacks? You can classify cyber attacks into three. Those cyber crimes, those cyber attacks, which destroys the availability of telecommunications and internet service. Sinisira ang serbisyo, nawawala ang serbisyo. Then, there are also those cyber attacks meant to destroy the confidentiality of data information which flows through the infrastructure. Confidentiality. There comes your right to privacy. There comes your right to communicate. And finally, cyber attacks at times are meant to negate, to destroy the integrity of the network facilities and processes, even the data, the information which flows from it, like cyber fraud, like cyber theft of your name, cyber theft of identity. So I am glad that Undersecretary Rayo and us Kabandong took the leadership of bringing about the issuance of the National Cyber Plan 2022, which is a plan in the event that there are cyber crimes or cyber attacks committed not only against our citizens or residents of the country, but also against business and against government. Let me just quote from a speech, part of it, because it's rather long. Besides, I have just released this morning, and I cannot extemporize on this. Let me just quote the last two portions of this speech. It says here, and this is not my word, I have to upload that person who wrote this for me. It says here, the National Cybersecurity Plan provides a strategic direction of making a shift between a reactive cybersecurity posture to a resilient active one. A state where we are no longer sitting ducks to the next cyber attack, recognizing the fact that cyber threats will plague all entities at least once. The Philippines now has a roadmap that will ensure all critical infrastructure. Don't use infrastructure in my department. It is infrastructure. Will continue to function regardless of cyber threats. The way to achieve such vision through knowledge management as a community of practice is part of the plan. After all, business, citizens, and government rely on the internet as the backbone, as the enabler of operations and everything. Undoubtedly, cybersecurity threats are increasing by the number in as much as the gravity, frequency, and density of our malicious attacks to the virtual space. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, though duly established, recognizes that a national cybersecurity strategy is urgently needed to safeguard our cyberspace against real, emerging, and persistent actors that threaten our very own critical infrastructure. The government spearheads the way into creating a trusted, secure, and safe virtual network for every Filipino to thrive on. We live in a world in which looting a central bank of almost $1 billion through cyberpage is no longer the plot line of a movie. Wala na yung James Bond. Totoo na ito. Where using drones for targeted killings is no longer a video game. We need to stop denying reality and start viewing cybersecurity as a human right. Let us not be divided by the issues that plague Philippine politics. Attackers might be on the lookout for this kind of opportunities to exploit vulnerabilities in our infrastructure systems. Instead, let us embark on a concerted effort into making Philippine cyberspace safe and secure to every Filipino. And finally, again, I bring you back to the purpose, the reason for being of cybersecurity. It is meant to protect the individual of which business in government are the intentions of the individual. Fundamentally, cybersecurity is meant to protect man's right to privacy and man's freedom of expression. Remember the Cybersecurity Act or the Anti-Cybercrime Law of 2012, while several provisions in that legislation was declared as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court said, no matter the language, these provisions violates either man's right to privacy or man's freedom of expression. So how do we balance then our freedom and security? I have an answer. And that answer is, we simply have to live with these realities. We simply need to have a balancing between our rights and public welfare and cybersecurity. And as I note in one book, it says, freedom without security is fragile. But security without freedom is oppression. I hope that our cybersecurity plan will live up to its purpose, to its reason in trade. That is to serve the Filipino people, to serve every citizen and every resident of the country, to serve business, to serve government, without forgetting the fact that everything exists for the individual person, and that cybersecurity is created to protect two fundamentals: freedom of mind, the right to privacy, and freedom of expression. Thank you.
And again, thank you, the ICT Secretary Rodolfo Saladiman. That was a very informative message. And just to quote him, cybersecurity is to protect. So next would be our photo op, requesting everyone to come up here on stage, and we'll be setting up chairs here. So just to, yes, we can all set up chairs. We would like to document this momentous event today by this group photo. So inviting everyone to please come here on stage as we have our group photo. So first, we would like to invite all DICT employees for the first group photo. All